And I would stand in my house, literally screaming at the top of my lungs, I want peace. I just want peace. And I would just keep screaming that. And apparently he heard me. My name's Maureen Peterson. I'm 53 years old. I grew up in Catholic church and Catholic schools. I um, was estranged from the church for many years. Never said I'd never go to church again for lots of different reasons. A lot of church hurt there. A single parent of two adult children. And until Jesus came in and completely changed my life.
When did you realize something was wrong in your life? And more specifically, what did you put your hope in or place your hope in prior to knowing Jesus?
The way I was brought up was a lot of what you did might or might not get you there. So there was a lot of time I was going to spend in purgatory, is what Catholics believed. So you stay there until your soul is burned clean. And with all I had done, I pretty much was sure I'd have to save somebody by dying, like become a martyr to actually get to heaven ever. So there's a lot of guilt, shame, and then there's no hope actually. So you kind of lean on things like alcohol, smoking, and that I had no purpose. I literally had no purpose in life. So it was pretty sad, except for my grandchildren. And then in 2019, some family thing happened, which changed a lot. And so I was already dealing with that. And then the shutdowns happened. And that's when everything was just too much. And I would stand in my house, literally screaming at the top of my lungs, I want peace. I just want peace. And I would just keep screaming that. And apparently he heard me. It just seemed like the world, everything was backwards. Everything I ever thought I had believed that I could trust, like believe in, like believe that, no offense, but I didn't think Christians would tolerate the shutdown through Easter. And I was like, it was so bizarre that everybody was just laying down and nobody was fighting for what they believed in. And so it was like, so with someone like me that didn't have anything, I have no one to lean on as far as like it's just strangers. The people that said they would raise arms to protect you. They're calling the police on their neighbors for having a friend over. It was just, and so some of the smartest people I know were falling for the most ridiculous things. And it was so everything I ever thought would never change was completely changing. And there wasn't enough, I joked, there wasn't enough alcohol or cigarettes or anything in the world. My husband's job never changed. So I was at home alone and I'm an artist and I did some pretty dark art during that time. But
Hmm.
I needed something to that was grounding, that I believed in, that was stable, that wouldn't change.
And when did you first start to experience Jesus pursuing you and inviting you into relationship with him?
Well, we sleep with the TV on. So I woke up one morning and there's some woman on TV talking about Jesus and she makes me laugh. So this happened 3 days in a row. So the third day I sat up and I looked to see who it was because I was like, I haven't heard this stuff in all my years of church. And it was Joyce Meyer. So I decided I got up early, started getting up early every morning and going out in secret and watching her by myself, what is she talking about? Because I mean, I heard the gospels, but not like this, and not about this changing yourself and to get peace. I mean, and I just dug in all I could.
What were some of the things that she was sharing that were resonating with you?
Other people's behavior doesn't determine my emotions, and that it's not fair for me to put that kind of responsibility on other people. So, say if my husband always calling wondering what kind of day I have, or if he's having a bad day, then I'm having a bad day. That kind of junk. And that's terrible in every relationship. So it was more like, okay, now, and she really is good at helping you see your own yuck and working on that. I was listening to all her videos I could get my hands on. And so the actual day of my salvation was October 24th of 2020. So my 3 years coming up. And I was doing dishes with my headphones on, listening to one of her hour-long messages from something she'd been on. And she said, like, this always tears me up. Says, She said, God will never love you more or less than he does right now. And I fell to my knees because I never heard that. Because his love, I thought, was always based on what I was doing or wasn't doing. Even though I kind of heard it wasn't. But to hear that, the way she said that, I just dropped to my knees. And then at the end of that, they did the prayer of salvation. I was just absolutely wrecked. It still gets me. So there you go.
And what challenges or struggles did you face as Christ began opening your heart and softening your heart and showing you that he was really pursuing the depths of Maureen?
I felt like, and now I know it's renewing your mind, but back then I was like, I have to re-brainwash myself because everything I'd been taught was so not him. I mean, because he wants to be everything to you and he loves you no matter what. I had started getting into the word because I'd hear, when I started listening to Christian music, I would hear lyrics and I was like, is that in scripture? Because I never heard lover of my soul, and that knocked me off my feet. And so the more, when you go into Song of Songs and it's just, we weren't obviously, I had never heard of that until because we didn't talk about that growing up. So the heart healing is so important because that's what changes everything is when your heart's healed, then all those other things can just fall off. But so I had a lot of resentment towards the former religion. And so that was one of the biggest struggles because the more I found out the truth, the angrier I got at the lies. So being angry doesn't help. So I had a sozo for that. So
As he continued to pursue you, what did you find that was so compelling about Jesus, and why did you finally say yes to his authority and kingship in your life?
because the more messages I heard about, I used to think it was ridiculous that the Israelis, 40 years, they had seen all these miracles. And then I realized how many years I've been doing it by myself and how long he's had his hand on my life for years and things that you can look back on. And you're just like, wow, that was all him. And I think at the time I still knew it was him, but I didn't get it. I didn't really get it. And I didn't get my purpose. And it's like now I have a purpose and I begged him for 50 more years of health so I can just chase after him and learn everything and just to cram it. Whatever he wants me to know just as fast as he can because it's amazing. You never understand that how freeing obedience is. It is it isn't a chore. It isn't an obligation. It is the most freeing thing to experience. And when you're in love with them, you want to because you love him. You want to show him you love him. It's not anything is you're not earning anything by it. It's kind of what you do with a spouse. And that's my joke. Like when you get married, you don't walk around trying not to cheat on your husband. You don't walk around trying not to sin. It's the last thing you want to do because you love him so much.
Did saying yes to his invitation to follow him cost you anything?
Oh, probably. I mean, I remember being upset because it felt like it did at a time. Like maybe I don't have the same friends. My job was bartending and DJing. And so I have had a lot of friends like that. And I had kind of gotten out of the scene already, but people don't know me like, I didn't know me like this, So blessed that my husband is okay. Loves me enough that this didn't, change that. But I lost my sense of humor for a while because I didn't know how to have a clean sense of humor. Does that make sense? And so I was pretty stoic and reserved probably for about a year because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to be who I basically am, but through him and with him. And so that's all come back. So now, I'm funny again, but not in the wrong way. And yeah, I know I lost friendships and that's okay. They're different, than I am, and that's okay because I would hope that they would see what a great change this is, and
Mm.
they'd be inspired.
How would you define how your identity has changed since saying yes to Jesus?
I've learned a lot about dropping pride and dropping offense, and the incredible. It just changes everything in relationships, and you see people through Jesus's eyes. You see yourself the way God sees you, and then you see others the way He sees them. So you're not angry when you're out driving. I was a road rager. I mean, and now it's like I can put stickers on my car Joyce used to joke about that. Don't put a Jesus sticker on your car if you're going to drive around being mad at everybody. So I went out and practiced a long time before I put me stickers on my car. And my need for attention, I was neediness. I prayed that he would take that from me before I found a church, because I didn't like that part of I didn't like that part of me at all. But people that do things like, DJs and things like that, they need the attention. And so when I first had looked at that part of myself, that was a hard one. And I think the isolation did a lot to change that, because I had to get to know myself, and then I got to know him. Then I had a car that broke down for a long time. Unless I was walking, I was home alone a lot. And then when my car was working, I was so grateful. But then I kind of started missing my time. I started missing my time with God, and I'd be like, I just want to go home. What's that? Because I was a people person, when in essence it was because I really needed the attention. And once he broke that, there's so much freedom in that.
How does your relationship with Jesus affect your life now?
Oh, it consumes everything. I think if I go like 15 minutes doing something and I haven't thought of him, I shouldn't say guilty, but it's strange. Like, I went somewhere with my grandson and daughter, and it was like 30 minutes, and we had paused to do something. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about you, Jesus, for like 30 minutes. It's strange. But I mean, when I have dreams, there's always reference him, and I can't imagine any time without him. It's yeah, I can't imagine doing life. I can't remember that much of life before him, because even when you're looking back, and a smart woman said this to me from church, don't ever look back without Jesus. And so when I'm looking back at my former life, I can always see him there anyway.
Who is Jesus to you?
I would say he's my best friend. He does everything with me. I talk to him all the time out loud. He saved me, has always been there with me. He's my biggest fan and my cheerleader, my comforter. But I feel like we're mostly best friends. So it's,
If you were to share something or say something to somebody who might be going through a similar experience that you've gone through, what would you share about Christ and what he did in your life, and how he's changed your life?
I would say pursue him with everything, because he's going to fix how you thought wrong about him. He will show you ways that knock you off your feet, how wrong you were about him, and it'll just change your heart. I mean, just keep chasing him as hard as you can in every way you can. Listen to every song, whatever inspires you. Read every word, every poem. Listen to every preacher and get your hands on that you like. Listen to everything and ask questions, and surround yourself with people that love him too.
Hmm. Maureen, thank you for sharing your story.
Sure. Sure. You're welcome.